thank you very much for coming along. I know it's a beautiful sunny day outside, so I do appreciate you coming here. I hope it's going to be worth your while. So my name is Dan Barnett. I'm the Director of Analytics at Analysis Marketing Ltd. We've been running a few of these meetups now over the last couple of years, trying to get interesting speakers for a range of areas within analytics, visualization, big data, and so on. So just to give you a quick idea of what we're going to be looking through during the day. So I'll give a little talk now, a little bit about get yourself seen, how to kind of show that you understand analytics, get yourself out there, get yourself noticed. Joe's currently held up at the moment, so it'll be Laura from ICU next, talk about machine intelligence, machine learning. We'll have a quick tea break then, and then we'll leave with a role from Communicate, who talk about communicating to the C-suite, so CEOs, COOs, just the kind of senior management, how to give insight to them. And then finally, we've got Think Big Analytics, talking about kind of open source big data and linking Hadoop with Tableau, which I think would be pretty cool. So, a little bit about myself. Work with a range of companies, Sky, Barclays, Lloyds, Orange, general kind of thing on big customer transactional databases in terms of market insights, segmentation, those kind of things. Also run relatively new analysis recruitment. So the aim of that is to kind of, I think there's a kind of niche within the industry of a recruitment consultancy that actually understands and works in the field, understands data, this whole kind of thing, you all here are probably somewhere or other data analysts, but there's a huge range of skills, experience, from the more kind of technical kind of using R or Python to the more kind of reporting analyst who's using Excel, SQL, and those kind of things. So, if someone says, get me a data analyst, that could mean absolutely anything in terms of level of experience, level of knowledge. And so, the aim of these events is to kind of give people a better understanding, hopefully kind of learn some new things, network, meet some interesting people. So, within that, get yourself seen. As I've said, you could say you're a data analyst. That could mean pretty much anything in terms of what you do. You can say, I build models, I do this, I do that. But, it's so much easier now, online, kind of the tools available, the presence you can give to kind of get yourself seen to show that, yes, actually, you really know what you're talking about. You get data, you kind of understand the whole thing. So, when I was younger, it was kind of 2001 seemed a long, long way off. The time is kind of, it feels kind of contracted. Things are getting faster. The level of development. When I started, SAS was the big thing. There was nothing that could touch it. But now, there are more and more tools that you can kind of get, just even kind of fairly low entry level stuff that can really start to challenge those kind of things. And it's kind of frightening. I kind of put Beaver on MySpace. It's probably gone too far the other way. There was probably a time when people went, oh yeah, I remember that. But there'll be people now going, what the hell's Bevo? Things move so quickly in terms of development. And as I said, the rate of change is accelerating. And so what does this mean for an analyst? Well, for me, I'm kind of nice and cozy with my SAS, SPSS, SQL, kind of know that kind of stuff inside out. And at the moment, there's still a ton of stuff for those kind of skills. But as things develop, they will go the way, to some extent, of a Bevo, and say, oh, remember SAS? There's so many other things out there, whether it's R, Python, Scala, there's so many kind of things. And so, it's going to progress or die. I kind of worry that, in 10 years' time, SAS analysts, there'll be no such thing. There's always skills that are transferable, but if you don't keep on with the latest things, you'll end up being some kind of legacy thing, where it's kind of almost kind of machine code kind of level, where there'll be some bank somewhere that has that kind of stuff, but that will be the only place that they'll have these old legacy systems that they can't touch. Everything else is getting so much more kind of agile in terms of quicker development. And so data is everywhere, in terms of open data, in terms of kind of just the whole kind of quantified self, absolutely everything, is kind of quantified now one way or another. And so, that data's out there that can be used and analysed. And again, more of that's public than ever before. The government are ever increasing the range, scope of data that they're providing, and that's available. And again, kind of things tools that are free. So whereas before, you had to be working for a big FTSE 100 company to have the right kind of tools and the right kind of processing power to do stuff. Now it's a case that, I was at a talk recently, and one of the guys said that it's probably the first time now when you've got more computing power in your laptop at home than you do in the one in the office. And so you're almost downgrading whenever you go into work in terms of the software. You might be using Internet Explorer 6, you'll be using SAML, various pieces of software, So there's so much more now that, you can arguably do at home a greater level of processing and analysis that you could even do in work. And so kind of, what should a model analyst be? And so I've kind of said three kind of things here. Inquisitive, questioning, business-minded. Because there's always this disconnect, whenever I talk to people about the kind of analyst they want. They say, yeah, I want someone who gets data and can kind of crunch through it and do all this kind of stuff. But I also want someone who understands the business, understands the so what. There's no point, going away for a month, churning through things, coming out with this 200-page report, when in fact, people usually just want 3 lines of kind of, this is what it says, this is what it means, this is what we should do. And it's as simple as that. The hard work goes on the background, but the key skill is then turning that into the insight. So, in terms of kind of visualization, it doesn't have to be some complex thing. It's just kind of stripping things down, getting rid of the superfluous stuff, and then actually, with less, generating more insight and a greater kind of level of understanding in terms of what can be done. And so this is from a Dark Horse Analytics company in America. It's kind of a nice example. And again, this is the kind of thing you can do yourself, stick on your blog, to kind of say, well, this is what we should be doing. This is a good example of going from something that's all cluttered, boring, to kind of, it's a big change. Yes, it's the same data, it's the same outcome, but you get that much greater level of insight and understanding. This is an example that I looked at recently. These 3 things say the same thing, but have completely different levels of kind of understanding. These are, within the UK, there's 3 regions of blood donation. So, top left there, that's the English, which is the main kind of national blood service. The one on the right is the Scottish, and the one down below is the Welsh. So they all show how much blood is available at the current time. And so you can see from that, they're all telling the same story, but quite differently. So the English one has gone for a 3D bar graph, which is pretty horrendous, but at least you can sort of tell, is that 8? It probably is, you have to kind of work it out. The Scottish one, good God, there's all sorts of issues there. If you hover over one of them on the website, it will show you, well, this is 5 units. So you kind of look at this and you think, well, A negative, there's probably about a third of the volume as there is of O negative, but in reality, they've got the same amount. I think one's 5 units, one is 7, so there's not much difference. So there's no real correlation between what you see in the picture and the actual number. There's probably thresholds, there's kind of high, medium, and low, but you can't tell that from that. And then the Welsh one, nice and simple. Green, okay, above acceptable levels. I'm imagining it's 7 days worth of stock. Yellow, less than 7, and I think if it's less than 5, it's red. So, it doesn't have to be some all singing, all dancing, E3JS, JavaScript, impressive kind of visualization. Just a simple chart with the numbers, color coded, gets the insight out. It doesn't have to be complicated. And so kind of how can you show what you know as an analyst to say, well, I say I build models, if someone might get 30 CVs saying, well, I build segmentation models, I do chain analysis, whatever it is, how can you show that you actually understand it? Well, more and more now, there's more data out there. So whether it's census data, government data, Open Data Institute are kind of working to kind of release more and more data. There's a ton of stuff out there now. You've then got the kind of openish data, I call it. So scrapables, anything that exists on the web is one way or another collectible. Some of it easier than others. And kind of software you can use. You can use Microsoft, Excel, Access. They're not state of the art, but they do a job. You can still get some stuff out there. And obviously, then the more kind of advanced stuff like Tableau. Just as a matter of interest, how many guys here use Tableau? It's about a third. I mean, it's a fantastic tool, and I kind of recommend it to anyone. The great thing that they've done now, Tableau Public, you can use up to 1 million rows, and you don't have to make that downloadable to anyone else. You can publish it, people can use it, but they can't take your data. So there's tons of stuff you can do even on your own, just to kind of work with it, get an understanding of what it can do without having to worry about someone kind of stealing your work. So I mean, this is a nice, quick and easy example of land registry data. So this is available to everyone now. So sales of houses across the UK, address, house type, price paid, date. Huge wealth of information just in that. Never mind anything else. But you can kind of see this was pre the budget change, where you've got this kind of 250, 500,000, 120,000 spikes, because it's created an artificial market as to where the stamp duty kicks in. So you can start to tell a story instead of going from a big load of data. You can kind of say, well, this is how this is affecting the market. It's created a distortion in terms of pricing. It's a simple kind of thing. There's loads of these kind of things you can do, whatever your interest is. You can find that, you can use the data, you can publish it, you can kind of show that you can kind of really understand data. So census data, even though it's kind of 4 years old, there's still a wealth there. I don't know how many of you have heard of tools like Mosaic, Acorn. There's plenty of geodemographic tools out there, but there's a certain amount you can do yourself now. You won't have the level of detail, but there's certainly the ability to kind of get an awful lot of detail about kind of commuting, drive time activity, ethnicity, affluence, all those kind of things within that. In terms of that kind of stuff, you can start to look at. And again, it's easy to combine with another tool such as Tableau, so you can kind of process it. In any kind of thing, if you can show it on a map, people are more excited. It doesn't matter what it is; things look better on a map. Again, link shortening. So if you're interested in internet activity, it's always nice. As an analyst, one of the key things I think is being nosy. It's kind of saying, well, how does that work? How do people behave? What's that about? So with things like if people use Bitly, Hourly, whatever it is, you can just stick a plus on the end, and it'll give you the kind of tracking information. So if there's any company or account you're interested in that uses these kind of things, you wonder, well, I wonder how that tweet works compared to another one. What's working for them, what's not. That information's freely available. So there's lots of stuff you can do with it. Scrapable data. So this is where you get into the more kind of technical stuff, and also kind of grey areas. Kind of what's content, what's copyright, what you can and can't use. But generally speaking, as long as you're not taking it, aggregating it, and then selling it on, or kind of using it, most things, there's a kind of fair use with things because it's already out there, published. But whether it's PHP or Python. It's a good way of showing your skills to say, well, you can't just say, well, I'm a PHP developer or I know Python. You can say, well, I've done this, I've taken it from here, I've got the data, I've reworked it, I then pumped it into Tableau, I put it on my blog, and I kind of understand the end-to-end process of going from raw data, insight, presentation. So you can really show that you kind of know your stuff. So this is something I did within football, so big football fan, and this is every shot in the Premier League last season. Red shots are just shots, not goals. Black ones, goals. You can kind of see, kind of where the activity is. So it's the kind of thing that you can kind of bring it to life. If you've got an interest in something, whether it's housing, it's football, it's poverty, whatever it would be. You can use that as an example. Get the data, put it out there, kind of show that you know from end to end kind of how to do a project, how to produce it, how to present it. And I mean, the other thing is inquisitive analyst. So why is something the way it is? So, again, going back to the land registry data, why is there a big spike? That's not a coding error, that's because there's a threshold, so people behave in a certain way. And again, you kind of say, well, why is that happening? Why are people doing that? And again, the big one for me, kind of everything I've ever done, is think like a customer. So, if I was a customer, how would I perceive this product? How would I perceive this business? What in the data is showing me certain things that back that up? Kind of, put that back on. And again, so the business-minded analyst, you kind of see, papers published and various things, with masses of statistics, but the ultimate aim is, so what? I had no marketing director, he said to me, does it move the meter? Does it make a difference? There's no point telling me something that's nice or interesting. I want something that saves me money or makes more sales. That ultimately, whatever kind of analysis you do, is pretty much it. It has to create a genuine improvement, not just be trivial. So ultimately, it's kind of be curious with data. Don't be afraid to get dirty with data. So get in there, whether it's scraping, aggregating, analysing it. Get in there, show that you can kind of do the whole kind of nuts and bolts of it. And then kind of new tools and data. Don't end up being a dinosaur and praying for legacy systems. Okay. Thank you very much.